Hi, welcome to my lab. As you already know from the thumbnail, today I'll be preparing Anne of Green Gables. I am doing this doll for my mom, who loves this series so much that she named her daughter after a titular character. Yeah, my name is Anna. Anne Shirley was created by Lucy Maud Montgomery in 1908. Her looks were inspired by teenage model Evelyn Nesbit, whose photo Montgomery put on the wall of her bedroom. Not creepy at all. One of the most known film adaptations of Anne of Green Gables, and my mom's personal favorite, is movie series from 1985 directed by Kevin Sullivan with Megan Follows as titular character. Few years ago also Netflix made own adaptation, Anne with E. I heard that it's pretty decent, but I didn't watch it yet. As a doll base, I pick up Draculaura because of her soft features. Her hair is in quite good condition, but still I had bad memories from splitting different hair color during preparing my Tilia doll, so I just cut it off. Off camera, I cleaned her face and started repainting. She's little stained because it is my second attempt. I wasn't satisfied with my first try. Her eyes were too small and freckles looked more like blood splotches. Instead of showing you my first failure, I decided to present you very detailed face-up with all layers which I did. On first few layers, I worked on changing her skin color with soft pastels. On my previous attempt, I used first some light green pastels to neutralize her natural color, but you can use directly nude and bronze pastels on her. For contouring her face, I am using warm reddish tones of browns, which will match with her orange hair later. I am collecting all excess of pastels powder with kneaded eraser. I am taking pastels from the brightest part of her face like bridge of her nose, chin and cupid bow. My sealant is not the best for making highlights, so I am brightening the face by erasing before sealing. For her lips, I used bright red pastels to make them look natural. On second layer, I added more pastels to her lips and made her red blush on cheeks and forehead, and I enhanced all contouring. Second layer makes all shadows more even. Tap tap tap, new layer. To seal my work, I am using DuraClear Ultra Matte Varnish diluted with water, applied with makeup sponge. The good thing with liquid sealant is that I can work in sections and I don't need to seal all face, just places with which I am currently working on. For example, here I am applying more color to her lips and immediately seal it. I could count it as half layer, right? When everything dried, I took my watercolor pencils and started to sketch her eyes. I wanted to give her different eye shape that I made for Tilia. I am helping myself with following the sculpt, but I found that making eyes based only on the sculpt doesn't work for me, so I am adding something from myself too. I am aiming for a very dreamy look. I finished this layer with sketching her eyebrows. On the next layer, I darken each line to build up more color. I used Q-tip to blend some of them. I added reds and pinks to her waterline. According to the book, Annie's eyes are greenish-gray, so I started to build up gray base color of her irises. I sealed my job, and when sealant on her face was still wet, I moved to her ears to bring more details from the sculpt. As you can see, I didn't trim pointy Draculaura ears because they will be covered by hair anyway. I sealed them with sealant and I never come back to them, so I can count it as half of layer. Next, I give shadows to the sides of her nose with brown watercolor pencil. I could use pastels, but I already closed them and I was too lazy to take them once more. On this layer, I darken all lines, build up more color and define her lower lash line. I like to make lower lash line half of the length of eye. Using white pencil, I am adding more highlights and defining some areas. At the beginning of the next layer, I took my Exactor knife to clean some dirt which attached to her face during dabbing the sealant. It is common with liquid sealant and it is important to touch it quickly before it dries and of course before next layer of sealant. This and next layer are for building up more colors and lights. I am using very dark browns and grey, not black, because I want her to look soft. On this layer I finally added upper and lower lashes, which I darken on further layers later. The downside of the liquid sealant is that each layer blurs a little watercolor pencils, so I'll never get very sharp lines. Even if I am applying very thin layer, still there is some water which dissolve pencils. On final layer of watercolor pencils, I draw her freckles, but they didn't show too much. I corrected them later with acrylics. Now is acrylic step. First, I whiten her sclera. I found that important is to dilute paint with water to get nice thin layer. If coverage is too small, just add new layer. It looks better than too thick and chunky paint. I ruined two face up with too thick paint before I got it. To make all lines sharp, I use Hexian trick with Exactor knife. I cover almost all my pencil lines with acrylics. You may ask why I build up color for so long to cover everything with paint. Well, it is good guide for me and it helps me keep everything even and clean. Plus, it makes great background for paint and I don't need to worry with cover each spot. I had biggest problem with her eye color. It is really hard for me to get her good grey and green ratio. I was referring a little to my own eye color because I have got this strange grey-green combo. Although I gave this Annie doll more silver tone than mine, which are greener, I think. I call my eyes grey, but it depends on light. They could be grey, green, blue, or even dark. Hard to define. Finally, I give her freckles. This was the scariest part because her previous face I ruined with freckles. I made her hair out of this Garfield orange acrylic yarn. If you're interested in how I made hair wefts, check my Chewy video, it is all about hair. I started from gluing the wefts on the front of her head. First, I wanted to make her bangs, but on the many references she didn't have bangs, so I just split them into half. I was using pins to keep wefts in place, but it wasn't necessary. I glued the wefts in the opposite direction and then flipped it back to make a clean part. I checked the placement of the weft when glue was still wet and corrected it when I realized that it is little on the side. Her original part was very helpful guide. Actually, this doll had got straight part line through her whole head and I could just reroute her, but I wanted to practice more with yarn wefts. After struggling with Sally's wig, I felt that I need to work more on this. As you can see at the end, this doll in general has got very simple design, so I wanted to focus on basics like face up and hair and give it as much time as needed. I sanded her body with nail buffers, sealed with my DuraClear Ultra Matte Varnish and blush with the same soft pastels as her face. I completely mess up it this time, but luckily she will be covered with clothes from head to toe, so this will not be that visible. I had no idea for her panties, so I just made them green. To make her clothes, I bought patterns. For her tights, I used Moonlight Jewel leggings pattern, which I combined with sock pattern to make tights and sew it according to the instructions. Both patterns are from her first miniature clothing book. For dress, I used delightful simple dress pattern, but I made it as simple as possible, omitting all cuffs and ruffles, plus I made skirt slightly longer than pattern size. And here it is. Annie's design changed during her aging, but I aimed for simple, modest look of Annie who just came to the Green Gables. It was still little too less for me, so using dress pattern as a guide, I prepared simple pattern for her beanie. For better fit, I made closure with Velcro. I know that it would be better to use white one, but I had only black. Pocket is functional. For her shoes, first I wanted to repaint some of the boots which I had in my stock, but none of them fits to the design. Plus tights which I made for her were too thick that none of regular Monster High shoes fit her. I started from making shoe base out of paper mache. Believe or not, but this is my first time when I was doing paper mache. It wasn't so popular technique in my school during art classes. When it dried, I cut it from her feet, trimmed and removed protective foil and tape. They turned out little too loose, but I'll take care of it later. I took Magic Sculpt and started to build up the shape of the boots. I'm sorry that I am out of camera here. I thought that I figured out how to stay in frame, but not this time. Anyway, high heel boots don't fit at all Anne of Green Gables, but I didn't want to struggle with making flat feet again, so I decided to cheat a little with the shoes design. I filled soil with clay and made artificial front for toes, making shoes look flat. They turned out quite big, but not that much. Monster High girls have got relatively small feet, so this balances their proportions a little. And I think that for this kind of boots, oversize look cute. On the first layer of clay, I was trying to smooth paper and clay transition and make shoes roughly the same size. They are not identical, heck, they are not even symmetrical, because I am not that skilled, but I am quite proud of them, because it is progress from Sally's shoes. On the second layer of clay, I added more details like laces and sole trim. When I am rewatching this process now, I think that I could make some steps better and in different order, but for me, they turned out pretty decent as for the first time. Oh, thank me so much for correcting camera angle, much better. If you wonder why my gloves are cutted, I have got small and chubby fingers and my lab gloves are too tight for such precise work like sculpting, so to avoid pain I am cutting them between fingers. I am trying not to touch clay with my bare skin, only with fingertips. Off camera, I painted boots dark bronze. On my reference picture they were black, but I wanted to give just a little more color. To keep them on her feet, I glued velcro on her heels and inside of the shoes. I put rough side of velcro on her tights and soft one in her shoes. This way velcro should not tear the tights. It is not perfect solution, but it keeps shoes on her feet. Last thing, hat. I had this round piece of cardboard, which is ideal for doll head. I traced a smaller circle for the crown part of the hat and cut it. I used paper and clips to make ribbon, which I attached with hot glue. When everything dried, I took twine and I started to swirl it in my fingers and protect it with super glue. Then, also using super glue, I glued it to the hat crown and I started to glue it to the hat in circle. At the beginning I was using super glue, but then I switched to Elmer's glue all. I was inspired by Doll Fairy's Main Street USA doll hat. I ended with this, so cute. I used for it all my teeny tiny super glue. Rest in peace, my friend. To hide glue spots, I painted it with very watered down acrylic paints. When it dried, I glued white ribbon and it's done. Here is the end result. I know that I am always telling that I am very happy with my recent doll, but the truth is that I am. Still, I think that Tilia has got better face up, but I like my Amy too. I think that I am learning more and more with each doll. But the most important for me is that my mom loves her. Thank you so much for watching. Next doll will be Mermaid Special and it's gonna be crazy. So see you then. Bye!